Previously on Episode 1. John, an international assassin, had just returned from what his employer assured him would be his final mission. But as he arrived home, he stumbled upon a gruesome murder on his street. A man was seen fleeing the crime scene. Rushing to the house the suspect escaped from, John discovered a woman lying lifeless on the floor. As he tried to process the scene, a child suddenly appeared. With police sirens closing in, John promised the boy he would find the killers of his mother before quickly leaving the house. Season 1, Episode 2 begins shortly. A sharp ring echoed through the sterile, white corridors of the Director General de la Policia's office. The officer at the desk barely processed the call before he shot out of his chair, sprinting down the hall. His chest tightened, breath shallow, as he pushed open the door to the director's office. "Director, sir, it's urgent." Director Rogero looked up, his face showing the strain of the past few weeks. Before the officer could explain, the phone on the director's desk rang. He picked it up, his expression turning grave as he listened. A cold wave washed over him. His skin, already pale, grew a shade lighter. The presidential candidate, Alejandro Rodriguez. He's dead. Murdered. The words felt heavy in the room, hanging like a dark cloud over them both. Rogero didn't flinch. He had trained for moments like this, but nothing prepared him for a crisis of this magnitude. The elections were days away, and now their strongest candidate had been killed in cold blood. "We're launching an emergency protocol immediately," the director barked, regaining composure. "I need our best officers on this now." Within minutes, the police headquarters erupted into chaos. Phones rang nonstop. The press, government officials, and Rodriguez's own campaign members demanded answers. The Spanish president himself had been on the phone with Rogero for more than 30 minutes, trying to piece together what had happened. As Rogero spoke with the president, the red light on his Casio desk phone flashed again. This time, the caller was urgent. "Sir," the field commander's voice was thick with tension. "We have a lead, but I can't elaborate yet. The investigative team is working the scene. It's delicate, but we're closing in." Rogero leaned forward, gripping the receiver tightly. "How solid is this lead?" "We found a fresh fingerprint. It could be our breakthrough." Rogero sighed heavily, but nodded. "Keep me posted every step of the way." Outside the hotel's crime scene, where the Spanish presidential candidate was killed, a police drone hovered silently above the grand five-star hotel, the site of the gruesome crime. Its camera panned the grounds, sending live footage back to the command center. Inside, officers scrutinized every detail, combing through the surrounding area for any overlooked clues. On the ground, police dogs sniffed meticulously through bushes and side alleys, their handlers asking guests if they'd seen anything suspicious in the past 24 hours. One guest, Pablo, stumbled forward, a hint of alcohol still on his breath. "I saw him. Last night. I saw the man who did this." The officers exchanged skeptical glances. Pablo, visibly intoxicated, wobbled on his feet as he spoke. "He was kissing a woman, right there in the lobby in the shadows. I tried to talk to them, maybe offer them a room, but they just ignored me. I knew it then. That man was trouble. I'm sure of it." "Did you see his face?" an officer asked, pulling out a notepad. Pablo nodded excitedly. "Not clearly, but he was sneaky. Later, I saw him leaving the hotel. He had a suitcase, and I'm telling you, he kept looking over his shoulder like he was up to no good." As Pablo continued rambling, the hotel's IT staff played security footage on a large screen. Sure enough, there was a man in the corner of the lobby, just as Pablo had described. The footage, however, showed nothing particularly damning. He disappeared from view, reappearing an hour later, walking through the lobby with his suitcase. But as the footage zoomed in on the man's face, it became clear. This was no random passerby. The way he moved, the nervous glance over his shoulder, something was wrong. "We'll check it out," an officer finally said, cutting off Pablo's ramblings. "Thank you for your help. Get some rest, and we'll contact you if we need more." Pablo left, beaming with pride at his perceived contribution. Inside the suite where Rodriguez had been murdered, forensic analysts dusted the room for fingerprints. After hours of scanning, one fresh print stood out, a print that didn't belong to Rodriguez. Gloves, one officer speculated. Maybe he took them off to use the remote? They tested the theory. The TV wasn't responding to any fabric-covered hands. This fingerprint could be the key to identifying the killer, or at the very least, a solid piece of evidence for the press. They needed something to appease the public and fast. The clock was ticking, and the nation was growing restless. Within an hour, the fingerprint was analyzed and results came back from the lab. The name that flashed across the screen sent a collective shiver through the room. John Bradley, an infamous international assassin. The shockwaves spread quickly. Within minutes, Spain's national news was running stories about the link between Bradley and the murdered presidential candidate. Reporters buzzed with theories, speculating about Bradley's motives. The government moved fast, setting up a special task force to track down Bradley and anyone connected to him. Interpol was alerted, turning this investigation into a global manhunt. Thousands of miles away, in the United States, John tracked the suspect for hours. The man wandered through the city, stopping finally at a small, rundown pub near his apartment. John watched from a distance as the man stumbled inside, drank heavily, and, after what felt like an eternity, staggered back out into the chilly night air. The streets were deserted as the man fumbled with his keys, trying to open his apartment door. Just as he managed to unlock it, John struck. In one swift motion, he shoved the man through the doorway, slamming the door shut behind him. The man fell hard to the floor, confused, dazed, and still reeling from the alcohol. John quickly locked the door, yanking down the blinds to block any prying eyes. The dim room reeked of stale beer and old cigarettes. A single armchair sat in the corner, surrounded by piles of unwashed clothes. The only light came from the weak glow of the street lamp outside. John pulled out his gun, pointing it directly at the man. "Who sent you? Why did you kill her?" The man's eyes widened in terror. I didn't kill anyone," he stammered, his voice shaky. "She was my girlfriend. I found her. She was already dying." John stepped closer, the barrel of the gun pressing against the man's forehead. You're lying. I swear I'm not, the man cried, trembling. She called me that morning, said she needed to end things. When I got to her apartment, she was already on the floor, barely breathing. John hesitated, his mind racing. Then who killed her? I don't know, the man sobbed. But before she died, she handed me something. A flash drive. She said it was important, but I couldn't make sense of it. John's grip on the gun tightened. Where's the flash drive? It's in my jacket pocket, the man whimpered. Please, just take it. Don't kill me. John reached into the man's jacket, pulling out the small, nondescript flash drive. He shoved it into his pocket before tying the man's hands to a radiator in the corner of the room. John went outside, sighted a 2018 Toyota Camry, used his left elbow to smash the driver's side glass, unlocked the car, dragged Brett outside, and threw him into the trunk of the car. He made sure no one was looking. As they drove into the darkness, John couldn't shake the feeling that something much bigger was about to unfold. And he was right. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to catch the next one this Friday, right here on the same channel. If you don't want to miss any of the action, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. See you soon.